And the Lord told me to tell you, and your name is going in the book. Do you believe that? Read Psalms 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And whosoever believeth on that shall not prosper. Shall not prosper.
Let's talk about this. Now, everybody can make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. I'll go ahead and say that right off the whip. But when you are supposed to be teaching someone something, when you are supposed to be leading someone in something, especially something that you have said is the guidance of your life, and you are put in that position to guide other people in their lives, and you don't even you know these are very popular sayings. John, not Psalms, John 3:16. I'm not even Christian, but I still remember the words that whosoever believeth in him shall have everlasting life. But he mixed John and the Psalms, talking about no one shall prosper. But he's saying, but listen to what he's saying. Whosoever believe in him, no one shall prosper. You would think that he would have caught himself at that moment, that he would have provided correction immediately in that moment. But instead, he just kept going. He just kept going. And what I really want to talk about, one of the failings that we have in the Black community, but I would also say in the lower economic communities, is that there are these spiritual leaders who have not went and done true study and understanding. There are spiritual leaders who have just been repeatedly saying the same thing that was said to them as they were growing up and becoming ministers and deacons and whatnot, that they are not going back and reading this story for themselves or studying this story for themselves, understanding this story for themselves, to be able to stand in front of people and teach these stories. I have been a teacher in IT for a while. And while I was a teacher in IT, if I knew we were in class this week and I knew the modules and everything we were studying this week, and even though I knew the work, I was that week preparing and going over what I was going to teach next week. This pastor should have been going over what he was going to teach prior to getting up there and teaching it, to ensure that he's teaching the people the right thing from this book. He just invalidated himself as far as being a knowledgeable person of this book. I'm not saying he can't make a mistake, but that's a huge one. That's a huge one. That's like me in IT not understanding, IP networking. Me getting a router confused with a hub. That kind of mistake. Those are not mistakes that you can afford to make in the IT world. If I'm setting up a hub and I'm trying to set it up like a router, and I will always constantly have an issue and it won't work. That's one of those mistakes you can't make. But these pastors need to educate themselves more so on what they're teaching people. I can imagine that there are many just sayings and things that he's just teaching without having a truer understanding of them. In the same way that I grew up in earlier in my life, the churches that I belonged to, as my family belonged to, were filled with pastors who didn't know how to read, with deacons who didn't know how to read, with people who couldn't study to show themselves approved, who just simply repeated what they had been told their entire lives by their fathers and grandfathers and so on and so forth, which means they're just teaching a lesson that was forced to be taught, not teaching a lesson that they had studied, researched, and come away with it with their own mind and their own thought process. And this is why so many are walking away from this religion, is because people are coming to their own mind, coming to their own thought processes, and realizing that many of the things that they have been taught are incorrect. and should not be taught, and that they should not follow these types of teachings because it is not beneficial to them and their lives. These are the teachings that keep you poor. These are the teachings that keep you oppressed. These are the teachings that keep you subjugating women, that keep you from actually finding out who you truly are and fulfilling your greatness. So in all things, yes, you should study to show yourself approved, because you are not approved in that message, sir. So always remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.